Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Informed Dissent, a news podcast that brings you dispatches from the gender culture war. I am Ben Appel, the author of Cis, White, Gay, The Making of a Gender Heretic. And I'm here with my co-hosts, Gender Clinic whistleblower and co-executive director of LGB Courage Coalition, Jamie Reed, writer and researcher, Sarah Mittermeier, and a gentleman of trans experience, Corey Cohn. Our fifth co-host, Lisa Sullivan Davis, is out today. First, starting with a couple news headlines, we have this week the Trump administration, I think it started yesterday, the Trump administration ended its federal partnership with the Trevor Project. So now the suicide hotline, I think it's 988 Lifeline, I think it's what it's called. It will no longer has a partnership with the Trevor Project. Of course, the hotline still exists, but now youth will not have the option of pressing 3 to be rerouted to Trevor Project counselors, and instead everybody will be directed to the main line there. The Trump administration has also cut off funding for PBS and NPR, which is definitely related to gender because of a lot of their misreporting and misleading about this topic for sure. And then finally, the National Review wrote an exclusive that the Trump administration is planning to cut off federal funding to hospitals that continue to provide gender transition service to minors. So they're in the final stages of a review for a new rule that would make it a condition of hospitals participating in Medicare and Medicaid to not provide these procedures if they want to continue to participate in those programs. I'm going to hand it over to Sarah. Sarah has an announcement or a little
Like
explanation to
a
give,
re-announcement.
a re-announcement.
Yeah. Um, so I think that some people might have missed the episode where I just said that I was dropping my longtime pen name of Eliza Mondegreen and just gonna use my real name, Sarah, from here on out. Um, there has been a lot of speculation about the origin or the rationale behind my pen name, and it wasn't because I was in graduate school. It was because I started writing about this publicly in 2019, and I would have lost my job even though I was writing about it on my free time. So I adopted the pen name after thinking about it for about 15 seconds, and would have definitely picked a different one if I had known that it would get stuck to me for so long, and then it proved a little hard to shed, and I'm just kind of over it. So that is my why I'm being called by a different name.
It's a good name, though. I mean, you did choose a good pen name, in my opinion.
I know, but I wish I'd used the pen name that I was going to use from like when I was a teenager, which was just Eliza Lang as my Dorothea Lang tribute.
Yeah.
And
Are you gonna stay Eliza though on some of your socials?
I think I'm gonna get rid of it.
Okay.
I mean, you are
Yeah,
writing a book, and your book's not going to be under your pen name, obviously, right? It's going to be under your real name.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not actually sure because some of it is like, okay, if most people know me by my pen name, is it?
Right.
I don't know. I wish that I had dropped it a while ago, but it was never a priority.
Are you
Okay.
gonna get your driver's license and your birth certificate?
Yes. Yes, and I expect no one to dead name me
You
anymore.
were you were identified Eliza at birth.
Yeah. We have a really quick correction from our last podcast. We were talking about the puberty blocker trial in the UK and mistakenly referred to it as the Horizon study. That is the puberty blocker study is a pathways study. It is likely a smaller cohort than the 3,000 participants. It will be, yeah, an unknown smaller number. The protocol hasn't been released. There hasn't been info released about how kids will be deemed eligible for the trial. And there's still a lot of question marks. But
Okay.
it is not called the Horizons trial.
Got it. Thank you for that, and thank you for readers for alerting us. And then Jamie, you had said an announcement as well, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to make an apology. Um, Last week when we recorded, I was still here in California in San Francisco. And it was a really rough episode for me. I would like to think it's not my personality, but maybe I have a illness where I am very sensitive to time zone changes. Is there like a circadian rhythm brokenness?
It's called being human.
Oh, I just cannot jump time zones very well. So we recorded that episode, and this is way too much information, but I had one of those mom puke buckets next to me and felt like I was gonna vomit the whole time and um, felt really, really terrible. So I do think that some of our, or at least some of my comments about the FTC event probably were not as on point as I wanted them to be. And one of those comments was probably looking at I think we talked a little bit about how Aaron Friday and maybe Lior were kind of offering two different pathways. I don't know if it was as clear as we wanted it to be. I don't know that Lior at the FTC was basically saying he wanted like a get out of jail free card for all of these doctors.
Mhm.
But in the same regard, I don't know if Aaron Friday is right that we're going to see a lot of these doctors ever going to jail or prison or anything like that. And so I think that there's way more nuance, that there really aren't just two pathways forward. Um, but I just don't know that we're going to see. And Corey, I think you were talking about this a little bit too. I don't know if these men mal cases are going to go anywhere, and I don't know if there is going to be prosecutions of any kind. I think we need to steel ourselves to this might become one of those things that most people want to pretend like never happened.
Yes,
Yeah.
swept under the rug.
That does not feel great. Jet lag aside, I think so many people want some semblance of justice, and I just don't know that the realistic parties in the room
Yeah.
think that people are going to be arrested.
Or that people will admit that that was what they supported. Like, it's not even arrest. It's like, will there be any kind of serious reckoning? I don't know.
And so what you're saying is too is that so last week, if I'm correct, you had kind of made it so that you were saying that Lior had actually communicated that specifically, but you realized later that he wasn't saying that exactly.
Yeah, and also I do think over that whole day, it was so emotional. There was
Hmm.
so much going on in the room that day that in some ways, Lior and Aaron were kind of the clarity or trying to present like forward motion as
Hmm.
opposed to just backward looking. And I think what came out of that was this sense that maybe they were proposing some things that were dichotomy, opposed.
Yeah.
Um, Help me with the language there.
Diametric.
Diametrically opposed. When really, I think there's just so much more nuance here that
Mhm.
that when we're talking about a gender doctor, we could be talking about somebody who, the Joanne Elson Kennedys of the world. For every one of those, there were 10 whose name you'll never know, who never published anything, and
Mhm.
what's going to happen to those doctors is just going to be very different. Um, so the
Okay.
FTC was just a very heavy day.
Yeah. What was it like almost 8 hours, I think, right?
Oh yeah, it was a whole day of
Yeah.
back-to-back testimony.
Can you tell us a little bit are you able to tell us a little bit about that private workshop that you did, Jamie? I know you posted about it on X.
Yeah, so I've been here in California for way too long, and I also I work with so many people who live on the Pacific Coast. I am so sorry. I would just owe everybody a giant apology. When I try to schedule a meeting in Central Time for 8 a.m., you all should just scream at me that I'm insane because I was asked to do a meeting from here for 7 a.m. Eastern Time, and I was like, this is batshit crazy. Like, time zones are really tough.
Hmm.
Um, so we've been out in California, going home finally tomorrow. And one of the reasons why we stuck around is because a parent here in San Francisco wanted to try to set up a private home kind of lecture series. It really did remind me of The Gilded Age, the show that I absolutely love right now. But so she invited a whole bunch of people in her network. She's an educator, and she invited people who she thought would be critical, who have no idea what's going on,
Mhm.
who might just be open to this like quiet time to talk. 19 people came. We did do a beautiful little buffet dinner. Then we sat down and we filled the living room and dining room, and we really got to talk. And it was, I presented, Lauren Legere, our co-director, presented, and then we just had this open Q&A session where people could just ask questions that, you know, one of the things I always want to say is that there are no stupid questions, and that in this, okay, so Corey thinks what is the stupid question in this?
What is a woman? Okay, maybe that's not a stupid question. You caught me off guard.
Can
That's
women
okay.
have penises?
How many penises can a woman have? Very good question.
That would be a stupid question. There you go. You nailed it.
Um,
Okay, so you're saying, Jamie, there's no stupid question. So, okay.
yeah. So
Right.
we just talked, and
Right.
it went really well. One of the things I feel like for California, there's so many different vibes in this country. Like the Californian vibe is so different from an East Coast vibe. Like, um, people I st feel like are still in like 90s liberal here, which is,
In California,
Really?
yeah,
even in San Francisco.
yeah. Maybe the 90s came back. Did it come back in style? Sarah, do you know if like style wise we're back in like the,
I feel like we're back in the early 2000s where we see
Mm.
way too much of everybody's midriff, but
oh, that's true.
So
yeah.
now, obviously, this is a small sample because you're like 19 people. Were these people challenged? Did they have preconceived notions of you that came to it? Or were they like were they really ignorant about this topic, or did they have strong beliefs or opinions about it coming into it?
That's a good question. So, um, some people were well versed. What I realized we needed to do while we were talking is we can't assume everybody knows all of the insider language, or,
Mhm.
when you're dropping names, like we can't assume people know who the hell we're talking about. What
Like
was
on this podcast,
really
right?
right, but what was so interesting to me was what are the threads that pull into this that I feel like we could capture more of the normies on. So one of the things that pulled in was just cell phone use in teenagers.
Mhm.
And there was a little bit of a pivot into some schools. High schools are pulling back and locking down cell phones, and cell phones are no longer out or available in high school. Well, I do think that ties in. And so people were, these are educators. So part of how teachers saw us fall into the mess of gender was that we fell into a mess of social media for these teenagers in the first place. And then the other thread that came up was the overuse of psychotropic medications for teens. And so these teachers were talking about how so many of the gateway for these kids into trans was actually that a whole bunch of them were started on SSRIs.
Wait,
And
what? How's that a gateway?
okay, so you have some kind of distress, you're a teen.
Right.
One of the things they're talking about is so many of these kids, nobody is talking to these kids about distress is normal in puberty. How do we manage things like sleep? How much social media are you consuming? Are you exercising? Nobody's talking about that. When they fall into some kind of distress, they're just given a drug.
Mhm.
And do you not see how if we're medicating away your basic distress, of course we're going to medicate away your gender distress because we've already set up this kind of paradigm where distress just gets medicated.
Mm.
Yeah, and there's even more to it. I mean, especially SSRIs for some people can have like pretty serious dampener on sexual interest, and that can make it more confusing. So a young person may really never have had any sexual interest, may now identify as asexual. That means they're in the LGBTQ community, then they get pushed, further and further. So it's both like, okay, we're used to treating distress with medications, so if not SSRIs, why not testosterone? But part of it is that like there's this fueling of dissociation from the body that can lead young people other places too.
Wow, so we're converting side effects of medication into personality traits.
Yes. And into signs of gender dysphoria and trans identity.
Neat.
Yes.
But what was so interesting to me is if you have like a group of educators who are open to talking about the overuse of SSRIs in their teen population, I feel like those are the segue moments where you go, hey guys, you're seeing this about SSRIs. What do you think about how
Mhm.
also, like 7 out of 12 of the girls in Mary Lou's 7th grade class are also trans? Do you see there's kind
Yeah.
of that going on too? It was interesting to talk to people who are not as neck deep in this because they do see other core issues with how we're raising kids right now.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been my experience talking to normies too, is that if you kind of situate it within a broader context of poor adolescent mental health, and then you bring in trans, people just naturally see it as part of that rather than exceptionalizing it.
That's a great segue.
Okay,
Can we go to Trevor Project real quick?
Yeah.
please.
Okay, because that is exactly what Trevor Project was trying to do with the suicide hotline. They were trying to say that it was its own special category, that they had this, that trans required a different response to distress or suicidal ideations than everyone else.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Well, and that directly goes, I wrote about this in the newsletter and I've written about this before, but in 2017, Trevor Project was a partner on the with the Movement Advancement Project, along with other organizations. I think GLAAD was an HRC as well, reporting on LGBT populations and suicide, right? So they were partners in creating this guide, and it starts out by saying you want to, when you're reporting on this, you want to convey the link between mental illness and suicide, not identity and suicide. And yet, a year later, the Trevor Project spent, I think, 7 months targeting, LGBT identified youth on social media with a survey about suicide and mental health. And, of course, then they find like, oh, 40%, 39% or 40% of people are, and then GLAAD's reporting on it. The examples of the way that these organizations violate these guidelines that they were partners in creating they're just so numerous and egregious. And so I've said it before, I'll say it again. If anybody is responsible for an uptick in, God willing, I mean, God forbid, an uptick in suicides among a certain demographic. Now, I can't, of course, say with certainty that this is true, but I really do believe that they are playing a bigger part, a much bigger role in contributing to that than really anybody else could, especially when they're perpetuating these suicide myths about how, not getting puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones is going to make someone suicidal. I mean, conveying to young kids that suicide or suicidality is a natural response to pubertal distress or whatever they're feeling is criminal. I mean, that's, it's unforgivable. It's egregious.
This is a bit of a tangent, but worth mentioning that one of the tactics that the organizers against some of the bills that Jamie and I testify in favor of, they bring young people to the state houses and have them role play their own deaths. They do these things called die-ins. And if I were an organizer, I would not want my people to be simulating their own death in response to legislation. That seems massively irresponsible. But it's the same sort of mindset that you're talking about, Ben.
Well, and yeah, that's insane. And that's insane. And it's wrong. And it's abusive. And it
It's
should
a
not be
cult
happening. But the way it's a cult tactic, exactly.
Yeah.
But the way that the activist organizations like that they get treated, it's like trans exceptionalism, just
Mhm.
getting treated so exceptionally, like, oh, this multi-million-dollar funded organization that, has pretty smiley, rainbow faces, and and we're protecting trans kids and vulnerable kids. This must be a proper way to, and any thinking person can look at this and say, this is batshit crazy. That's kind of just this like unreality that we're living in is like so this upside down is so distressing. But I mean, Corey, and then the people that run, not everyone that runs, works for these organizations is batshit crazy, but a lot of them are. And Corey, when we were at for Maud Marin, when we did that panel at the school board meeting in New York about gender ideology in schools, there was a representative from Trevor Project there. Do you remember?
Yeah.
August, who was saying trans kids are dying, like
Mhm.
seemed receptive at first to our sensitively told stories about, what we were trying to convey, you, me, and Lisa. And then, trans kids are dying, people are dying. It breaks my heart that you would come here and slander the vulnerable youth or something like that. But then when you were talking about your own experience with surgery and you said, I have not, I will say this because you've said this openly over and over again, but or a number of times, you haven't been able to climax, with another partner,
Yeah.
sexually, since undergoing this procedure at 19. And what did August shout out when you're sharing this part of your story? This trans-identified female,
Remember?
medicated on testosterone, at least as far as I know, shouted out, "I've made plenty of trans girls come,"
Oh,
in a school board meeting
yeah.
while Corey is sharing this part of his story.
Yeah.
That is the
Maybe
Trevor.
it was author.
That was the Trevor Project representative at a school board meeting. I don't know if I need to say more than that, really.
Okay, well, I'm going to share a brief St. Louis story that
Okay.
goes off of the Trevor Project issue. So I worked in a pediatric gender center, and we created resources to give to the kids that came to our center. Sometime in maybe a year or two into my tenure, a local group decided that they needed to make their own Trevor Project. And I put this in air quotes for the people who are listening. Um, for some reason, there was this concept that the general suicide helplines were not good enough for queer, and again, in quotes,
Mhm.
queer people. And so they needed to set up this separate hotline. And they came to us and they wanted us to include their resource in our packet that I would give out um, to parents and kids who were, experienced distress. And I asked them a couple basic questions that I would ask any suicide hotline when you're dealing with children. Do you have a system in place to report abuse or neglect?
Mhm.
Are your trained individuals mandated reporters? Because sometimes kids are calling because they're in distress because they are in a situation where they are not safe.
Mm.
And mandated reporters have to follow, state laws regarding reporting abuse or neglect. And I also said, when you're dealing with a kid who is suicidal, are you capturing their location? So when they call, are you asking them, where are you right now? Are you at home? Are you standing on a bridge? You know, are you driving a car? Like, where are you? Because part of what you want to be able to do is there are situations with kids where you have to send 911. If a kid is telling you on the phone that they have just swallowed a bottle of Tylenol, you are required with a child to send them resources. And I asked this of them, and they did not want to comply with those kind of requirements. Um,
Wow.
in in the woke kind of mindset, Child Protective Services was also uh, not good.
That's anti-trans.
Well, they were talking about how Child Protective Services, attacks families who are poor or around race. And so they were not going to have their people trained to do this kind of reporting. And I really stood my ground and I refused to put this resource on any of our paperwork.
Uh,
And I think the Trevor Project has this kind of similar mindset that everything just comes back to, oh, you're trans identified, you're queer, and it's just the cis world against you, and not to follow any of the normative guidelines on what we need to do to protect people.
Briefly, I have a similar story, Jamie, which is that there's something called the Trans Lifeline, and it's famous because it's the people who created it ended up embezzling something like $250,000 from the charity, allegedly. And before this happened, when it was first forming in this, I guess this was 2018, 2017 timeframe, thereabouts. I thought that this would actually be a good idea because helping people who are trans identified, there's a lot of stress. So a service that was specially for them, I thought, even though I didn't agree with the politics of the people starting it, that it's one thing to stand back and criticize everything, and it's another thing to roll up your sleeves and do the work. So, okay, they're doing the work. So I said, around the trans community, there's a lot of abusive people are attracted to it, and you're dealing with an especially vulnerable population. So what I want to know is, are you doing background checks on your volunteers?
Yeah.
And also, I know that background checks are expensive. If you pledge to do background checks on your volunteers, I will pledge to donate $50 a month indefinitely to help defray the cost of the background checks. And as it happens, somebody who was close to the leadership was not completely on board with what they were doing. So they sent me a message as a side channel. And they told me, because I had asked that while they had been considering doing background checks, me as a critic asking about that had made them committed to not doing background checks on their
God.
What year? When was this? What year?
It's been a while now. It's probably 2017, 2018, that somewhere around that time frame.
You were that problematic back then?
I don't see it as problematic then. I see
Well,
it as
You were
according to-
causing good trouble all the way back then.
I'm not even trying to cause trouble. I thought that
No, I know,
if they had just listened to me,
right.
then like that, I wasn't trying to tear them down. I was trying to help build them up.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to cause trouble. It's just that there are so many people who are bad faith actors out there, that when somebody who's pretty, I don't know if innocent's the right word, but I'm not trying to create splits. I'm not going out and trying to create damage, at least not in this case. ACLU is a different matter. But trying to actually be constructive, it just causes them to polarize.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's wacky.
Well, I mean, speaking of funding too, the Trevor Project, of course, is expecting federal funding cuts. For listeners who might not know how rich this organization is, I mean, in 2023, it reported that it brought in $67 million that year. And that
Nice.
does not include $20 million in federal funding. $87 million. Okay. So now they're doing crowdfunding, right? Of course, because because of course this whole suicide hotline is gone and everybody wants trans kids to die and nobody cares if they die. One thing. I mean, of course, that's the framing of it. And then federal funding is going to be cut. We need your money. And I do fear that. In a way, I'm like, good riddance with this, breaking of this partnership with them. Absolutely. I mean, in their final report, Paley, I think his name was, the former CEO of Trevor Project, said, like, we're so proud that over 100 sexual orientations and 100 gender identities are represented in this youth survey. I mean,
Nice.
these are the people that your kids, your vulnerable kids, were being connected to if they called a federally funded hotline, suicide hotline. They're being directed to people that actually think that there are over 100 sexual orientations and 100 gender identities that not should not that are just there, but should be celebrated among these vulnerable youth. Anyway, not to mention the misinformation they're spreading about suicide and the possible suicide contagion that they're contributing to. But I do fear that, like, when Trump his first term, we saw, as far as I know, I believe this to be true, funding for organizations such as the ACLU, GLAAD, others really, really taking off because of all this fear mongering of what was going to happen. And I do fear I'd be curious to see how much the Trevor Project brings in 2025, and if there has been a similar uptick there, because I
So
know that
you think they might make more off
possibly.
the loss of funding?
What do you think? I don't know. I mean, 67 million when they're not being threatened by the Trump administration is a lot of money to bring in. And, that was under the Biden administration. So I don't know.
I just pulled the 990s for the Trevor Project. This is for 2023.
Hmm.
Are you going to share, or are you just going to laugh at your screen?
I'm laughing because I'm scrolling to the section where they showed the salaries.
Oh,
Oh, God.
Tell us.
2023, $4.6 million in contributions and grants, $5.3 million in total expenses.
So they spent more than they took in.
They spent more than they took in. And then when we go down to the salaries, watch out, I'm gonna dox the salaries of this public organization here.
It's public record.
I know, it's not doxing. Oh my gosh, this is why I didn't want to scroll, is because my scrolling skills are getting worse.
We're all on edge, and Corey's like, I can't work my mouse.
I can't scroll this thing. It's just it's going sideways. I want it to go down. It's co-executive director. Hey, you'll like this, Jamie.
Okay.
The co-executive directors, Tegan Meyer and Aisha Nassim.
Hey, wait, Tegan spelled how?
Taegen, just as it's pronounced.
No, that's Tegan.
Okay. $154,000.
$154,000. Okay.
And then Aisha Nassim, $142,000. Now, what I attribute to the difference in salaries here is that Tegan must be a male. There's the 10% salary gap for you.
Right.
This is all speculation. We don't know.
Well, no, that was a joke here.
Don't quote us on this one.
And then they have 3 other executives that make over $100,000. So here's your target, Jamie. This is what you want to model after. You need to get a bunch of horny male streamers that like to exalt the trans community to raise money with 24-hour streams.
Yeah.
You need the speedrunners, the D-trans speedrunners to start raising money for you.
NPR, talking about money though. So does NPR think it's going to survive its cuts? Because it sounds like Trevor's going to survive this federal cut. If their historical trajectory holds true, they're going to survive.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I don't know what the financials are for NPR and PBS in terms of other contributions, like the expense for the contributions for Trevor Project. It's broken down individual philanthropy, corporate partners, Corporate
Okay.
partners are the majority of
Okay.
the contributions. Then the next biggest is government grants. It's about 23%.
Okay.
Then it says in-kind revenue, and then other income, which is like a percent, 1.5%, and then foundation 0.6%. So, but mostly it's corporate partners, then government grants, and then individual philanthropy. So I don't know corporate partners for PBS and NPR, what that looks like, and also individual contributions.
Does anybody here still contribute to NPR or PBS?
No, not anymore.
No. What about you,
Did
Jamie?
anybody here used to contribute to NPR or PBS?
I
Okay.
didn't. I'm a
For the
cheapskate.
listeners, Sarah, Corey, and I all previously were NPR or PBS donors and now are not.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I'm sorry for having so many anecdotes today, but can I tell a very brief one?
Yeah.
Please.
So I gave testimony in Texas on one of these bills that would prevent medical procedures on children with gender dysphoria, and received some very biased local coverage from one of the NPR affiliates down in Texas, and it was really unprofessional. And I tried to contact the news director, and I got nowhere. And I got annoyed I was so annoyed that I couldn't even get a response back. That I mentioned them on Twitter, and I mentioned NPR to say, this biased coverage is terrible. And NPR's reaction back when they were still updating their Twitter, they went and found the story that I complained about, and they retweeted it so more people could put their eyes on it.
is that when you stopped giving them money, or is that long before?
No, I'd stopped giving them money about a year before that. But when that happened, it hardened my heart. And at this point, I am firmly in the camp of defund NPR. I don't have such strong feelings about PBS. I'm sure the arguments are the same, but my feelings about it are big giant middle finger to NPR and all of its affiliates. Y'all are very focused around the way that I describe it is the NPR programming is designed to flatter its audience. It's designed to appeal to the self-image of the refined elites who listen to it, so that when they listen to it, they feel like they are good people for listening to it. That is what the programming is designed around, and I am all for punishing NPR for configuring itself that way. Good, you're gone, go.
It's also for the people who really want to feel bad, though.
How so? What do you mean?
Oh, well, Corey's saying it's for the people who want to feel good about themselves. It's also for the people who want to be made to feel really, really guilty about new forms of privilege they didn't know they had until they turned on NPR.
It's the same.
It's the masochistic. Yeah.
It's not for a general audience. It's for those people.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were talking about, like, I think Mike Solana, who is Pirate Wire, said something like, this outrage about this, tweeted something like, and I kind of was like, yeah, that makes sense. He's like, this outrage about this is ridiculous. Like, if you can't expect American taxpayers to pay for your, like, political ads, essentially, like, just your propagation of your, like, political beliefs and ideologies. Like, you don't have a free license to do that. I mean, I was starting to write about this, but for my own Substack, but I came across this article on something called Idea Stream Public Media, because you guys know that every week I do this newsletter for Informed Dissent paid subscribers. And so I come across so many articles, and I'm just constantly just reading. And it's mind-blowing, just utterly mind-blowing what, supposedly reputable outlets will put out there. Idea Stream Public Media, it says it's home of Northeast Ohio's public radio stations WKSU and WCLV, and television station giving you national content from NPR and PBS. Okay. Now, so I'm like, okay, this article is called, quote, "I'm suffering here," end quote. Trans woman shares struggles from behind bars in Lorain County men's prison. So this is a murderer who's been in jail for 30 years. 20 years into his sentence, he started identifying as a woman. He says his former name, does it list his dead name in here? I can't remember.
What?
I'm sure it does. Here we go. Oh, apologies. I can't remember his new name is
Yes.
Riccara Janelle Dior. I don't, they all of these like fashion designer last names. So then he cut off his testes himself, cut off his testicles,
Wait, in the
and
jail?
in the jail. Yes.
Oh,
And
Boomed.
oh.
I don't know.
so now he says, "I'm a woman. So this is reporting. This is reporting from the perspective of like, oh my gosh, this suffering trans woman in men's prison who's not being moved to a women's prison.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a woman," Dior said. I'm, quote, "I'm real demure, ladylike. I'm a girl's girl, so I want to be acknowledged as that." Okay? Goes on to say, there's no way possible you can keep a woman safe in a man's prison," Dior said. "That's just not even logical." You know? Okay, that's the illogical part. Is is keeping men in, I mean, it's really unbelievable. So, if these are the kind of news outlets that are, well, I do not want to be paying for that for sure through
That
tax
was an
dollars.
NPR story?
Well, I mean, it's from Idea Stream Public Media, which brings NPR and PBS to the Northeast Ohio area. It's a publicly funded outlet. So I'm assuming that this is part of that. It says on its about page. WKSU is a public media service licensed to Kent State University and operated by Idea Stream Public Media. So, you know, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
No mention of, and now in this article, to their credit, they do say, some people have concerns. Many
Oh,
lawmakers and
maybe the
other,
person that this
yeah,
dude murdered
right,
also would have liked to have figured out how to be kept safe.
right.
Thank you very much.
So it says many lawmakers and others that oppose transgender women in female prisons are concerned that doing so would be dangerous and harmful for the women already housed at those facilities.
Yeah.
New,
I gotta jump in there. I'm sorry, Ben.
Go
Read
ahead.
that one more time.
Many lawmakers and others that oppose transgender women in female prisons are
Yeah.
concerned that doing so would be dangerous and harmful for the women already housed at those facilities.
So this is where the media is letting everybody down. Its audience, but the people who this reporter is talking about. I can guarantee you that nobody who's opposed to this is opposed to transgender women being moved to women's prisons. They're opposed to men being moved to women's prisons. But the reporter,
Yes,
transforms the message that they're trying to relate here into the correct blessed phraseology of transgender women. So even if they wanted to use like scare quotes to describe what the opponents say, they should at least use the words.
yes, that's yes.
Or at least address the framing. So it could say these individuals who opponents consider men. However, they should at least address the framing that's being used instead of why are so many people opposed to trans girls playing in girl sports, right? When you've adopted the activist framing around it, it's no longer news, it's propaganda.
Exactly. And what else, who else does it say is opposed to it? Quote, many lawmakers and others.
Who are the others?
Well, who are the lawmakers? They're
Well,
not
true.
Democrats. So we're talking about evil Republican lawmakers, right?
Yeah.
And others. I mean, not to say that maybe Democrats haven't expressed their very, feeble support and then completely been silenced, by this. But, just that framing alone, but I was saying to their credit, but then they talk to they quote nobody that does have these concerns. Who they do quote is someone named Dr. Jennifer Aldrich, a physician with Philadelphia's Temple Health, who treats incarcerated LGBTQ plus patients. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Um, uh,
And the
quote,
plus
quote,
includes murderers.
Quote from Aldrich. I think everybody, all of these officials are concerned that somehow these trans women are going to sexually assault cisgender women. She said, and then end quote. The article says, she said medically, trans women have suppressed testosterone, which not only reduces libido, but makes it difficult to achieve an erection. So, even if these guys wanted to rape somebody, they probably couldn't even get it up. So really, like, what's the issue? But then it goes on to Altred says, quote, and just like cis women, trans women have a variety of sexual orientations. So yeah, some of them might not be attracted to women, so they're not going to want to rape women if they're not attracted. Quote, but many are straight, which means they have sex with people who identify as men. So I think it's a very overblown theory that this would happen. I think that it's an excuse. End quote. So we can bring up citations of a man was convicted, a male inmate was convicted of an additional 8 years for raping a female in Rikers, I believe it was. I found this in reporting on another rape that a woman reported at one Rikers Island by a male inmate they were housed with. So why is that? How many does that need to happen for it to not be overblown? This should never be happening in the first place. It should never have happened, and it's really it's unforgivable. And so this is what these outlets are putting out. It's madness.
Well, so this administration has managed to do what 5 administrations before it has tried to do, which is defund NPR and PBS.
Right.
And I personally will cry if my NPR station dies finally a death of like going off the air, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I also don't think that they're salvageable at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they ignore you completely in their reporting on
Well, no,
they've reported on her.
They've reported on me, but they'll never talk to me. And they let
that's what I mean.
let Aaron Reed and Evan Urquhart have an hour to talk about me, but they wouldn't talk to me.
And that's in your hometown.
Yes, that's in my hometown.
Yeah.
One other journalist snafu this week. Well, okay, I don't know. Has anybody watched the Gavin Newsom clips about trans?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought we weren't talking about Gavin Newsom on this podcast because it upsets the audience if we do.
Who does it upset if we talk about Gavin Newsom?
I don't know. There's always somebody in the comments saying, "Why? I hope you don't talk about Gavin Newsom."
The man is probably going to try to run for president. I think what he says matters a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead.
Right.
Okay. First of all, his interview was 4 hours long.
Wow. Okay.
He was interviewed by somebody named Sean Ryan. Sean's Twitter handle is Sean Ryan762. I'm going to be completely honest. I know nothing about this person.
Same.
Probably Irish.
It says he's a former Navy SEAL / CIA contractor. I didn't know about it either, but he's hosted the Sean Ryan show. 1.1 million followers on X. I had no idea who he is. Okay,
so Gavin Newsom does this 4-hour long interview. There's like 10 minutes of clips that went around on X. And I thought, well, I'm going to listen to the whole thing because this might be interesting. I got about 30 minutes in, and Sean had given Gavin 2 gifts for coming on the show. And these were not like NPR mugs. Sean does not have a mug and a tote bag. Sean, the first thing he gave Gavin Newsom was a handgun that's legal to be used in the state of California.
Okay, so a BB gun.
No, I mean, it was like a smaller magazine. I don't know anything about guns. So the first gift he gave him was a gun. And then about 10 minutes later, he gives him a gift of a bag of California, like organic pot gummies.
Okay.
It was okay, but here's the
Was
thing. I listened to the whole thing. When it was talking about guns, when it was talking about homeless people, when it was talking about AI, when it was talking about all these other things, Gavin was like, this is the data, this is the research. I can, I got a whole group of experts together. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And then when it came to trans, he was like, and just stumbled.
hmm It was uncomfortable to watch. I mean, you guys continue, because I'm sorry, Jamie. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, it was uncomfortable to watch. And if you watch the whole thing, they try to like bro it up like the whole time. I've never heard a future politician curse so many times. Gavin just kept cursing with this guy, like, this
Hmm.
is how the bros talk.
Hmm.
And then I don't know. Is the Republican Party this lost that they don't even know who the experts are to even talk to or how to like answer these questions so they don't sound like idiots?
Yeah.
I mean, the Democrats,
What did I say?
Republicans.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, I meant the Democrats.
Well, the
Hmm.
Democrats, yeah, and also, but also you could be said like if Sean, the host, is a Republican, you could say that too because he was not informed about this at
No,
all.
he
I
didn't
mean,
know how to follow up and punch back.
no, he was talking about cat litter boxes in classrooms, and going
Sarah,
on,
hold Sancho's ears.
right, and that kind of stuff. Just these kind of old, arguments, these sensationalist arguments, not talking about any of, um, what this is really about. He just did not know. First of all, let's talk about, I mean, anybody that has that hair is a fucking slime ball.
Wait, who's Gavin?
Gavin's.
Hang on a second.
Oh my God, hey, come on.
Anybody. Show
Describe the
me
hair
a
then.
single picture of someone that has that slicked back nasty politician hair that isn't a complete freaking scumbag. And I will stand corrected. I will. Listeners, put it in the comments. First of
But
all,
you don't want him to swear more. You just want him to use less product or better product.
he's just, to me, Gavin Newsom is, in my opinion, he is a slime ball, slime with a period in between slime and ball, period after ball. But and so with this, equivocating and his like that politician talk of like, well, I hear you, and when we think about this, and oh, but I was so, I'm really kind of into equality and like pushing this, and I was on the forefront of gay marriage. What were your thoughts about gay marriage back in da? It's like, shut up. Nobody's talking about gay marriage. We're talking about transing little freaking kids and cutting the breasts off of 13-year-old girls. Okay, we're talking about chemically castrating kids. And then he's like, well, and the dude's like, well, God, he's like, these kids are so young. And Gavin's like, well, now that I have a 9-year-old, I can kind of see what people are saying. Oh, so it took you to have a 9-year-old to understand that this is crazy. Now, I will say, this is the value
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
to kind of defend this and also to give a more nuanced perspective in Lisa's name, because Lisa would be like, let's talk nuance here.
Yeah.
But this is the value of watching the full clip, and this is the value of watching the full 10-minute clip. Because if I would have stopped halfway through, I would have gone on X and been like, da 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 da, and pretty much just the exact rant that I just gave, right?
Okay.
Slime ball, hair, slicked back, trash, scumbag. But he does go on to say, I have talked to so many parents who have said, this saved my kid's life, where my kid is thriving now. And he's like, so I'm troubled. I don't know. And the thing is, I believe him when he says that, because there are parents out there that show up to these hearings, that show up everywhere and say, my kid is thriving. This saved my kid's life. My kid was going to be so that does happen. And then he also adds, and this is even more telling to me. He said something like, the same people that were opposing this were the ones that were opposing gay marriage. And I just had this reaction that if these guys are opposing this, then this, you know what I mean? Like this must be
Yeah.
okay. So that was honest and telling, I think.
Okay, but honest and telling, and yet how do we then get him to listen to the parents like Adam Vina
Oh,
lost custody of his child in the state of California for not affirming his kid? Or how do we get Gavin Newsom to talk to Harrison Tinsley, who had to fight and lose thousands and thousands of dollars in court fees to keep custody of his child because he didn't want to affirm his kid? Like, that's if part of this is that he listened to the parents who were going to say my kid was saved, then how can we get them to listen to the parents whose kids were hurt?
well, that's a trivial question, Jamie. So I can answer it right now. Step one, form a pack.
Oh God, you're gonna tell. So everything in this whole episode is gonna come back to money.
No.
Well,
We had the $67 million that the Trevor Project had.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay. So yeah, it's all about the money. But I guarantee you, if you raise $25,000 for him, he'll talk to the parents for an hour.
I'm afraid it's not $25,000. I'm afraid it's $250,000.
I was thinking the exact same thing, Jamie.
Like I think that the dollar amounts are, but then also, okay, but then I have a real gut reaction to that as a Democrat because it doesn't cost me any dollars to get some of these Republicans to be willing to open their doors and listen to their constituents and the harmed people. So explain that to me.
But if you wanted to make a strong case about why children should be able to get emergency abortion medications, you probably would need $25,000 to get.
Right. I mean, it's politically expedient for them. They're winning on this issue.
Yeah,
So
right.
this is, this is earning them money ultimately by talking to you and listening to this. You are helping them. Where, i- taking on a risk like that is gonna cost you with
Okay,
Democrats.
so
But
okay.
speaking of the people that did lose custody, Jamie, I'm glad you brought that up because in the beginning of this segment, near the beginning of it, Sean mentions, I don't know what it's like in California, I believe it's in Washington, but the fact that parents are losing custody or being investigated for this, he does the freaking equivocating of like, well, I mean, yeah,
In 21 other
but in
states.
21 other states, this
Yeah,
is kind
we're
of da
just
da da
like
da
it.
da.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're the governor, you are and have been the governor of California. You're responsible for this. These are the laws that you're signing. So, like, own it. Own it. If you can't, like, that equivocating and the deflection and the change the subject and let's start talking about gay marriage, even though we were just talking about kids being ripped away from their parents because their parents didn't, let them get on puberty blockers at 12. I'm sorry, go ahead. I just think that's
I think my frustration with the whole interview is that I'm waiting for some sense of leadership from the Democratic institution itself to step forward and say, I have researched the issue. Here is, even if it's a middle ground that I don't like, I want somebody to at least step forward and say, I know what the fuck I'm talking about, and here's some possible ideas. They're still hem-hawing like they don't even know the talking points, so they don't know how to speak.
mhm.
I hate to say this, but I have to run.
I know. Well, do you want to wrap up and you can say your non-gendered thing for the week?
Well, I don't want to stop the flow, but also,
no,
what
I
else
have
is
to
there
go
to say?
too. So,
It'll be time. So what's your non-gender thing, Corey?
Well, I grew up in Reno, Nevada, and therefore I've been to San Francisco any number of times in my life. And it was my delight to bring a number of our friends to the Fisherman's Wharf, which apparently has not changed an iota in 30 or 40 years. Um, it was delightful. I got some delicious sourdough bread. Got to look at the beautiful Bay Area, and my goodness, it was restorative to take in such beautiful views. Ben, you're shaking your head. I'm talking about how beautiful the Bay is.
And I'm with you
Okay,
on
right.
that. That took that view. When I went to San Francisco the first time, I rode that trolley over that hill and went down that hill. Took my it took my breath away. Really did. Did you see all the
Well,
seals as well?
no, didn't see any seals.
What do you mean you didn't see seals?
I
Where
haven't
were
seen
they?
any seals.
We weren't that adventurous.
But they're all like
But they're
typically
usually like,
right there, like on the. No? Where have the seals gone? Wow.
Gavin Newsom killed them all.
Uh, my goodness.
Oh
Well,
my
What
thank.
God.
about you, Ben?
What's your
Um,
next gender?
I this is gonna like probably trigger, for lack of a better word, a lot of listeners, but I watched Jeffrey Epstein Filthy Rich, the mini series on the limited series on Netflix because I was like, I don't think I've seen this one, and obviously it's so relevant in the news right now, and so I just finished that last night, and I was actually that was a pretty good thing. It's a comprehensive overview of that whole story. And that's all I'll say about that. Sarah, I'm sorry. Sarah, what about
yeah.
you?
I have been really into dyeing things different colors for a couple of months, and I don't think I've mentioned it. And I got some better dye because
Fabric? We're talking about fabrics?
yeah, I
Oh,
basically
okay.
I have bought a lot of like vintage clothes online for not very much money, and they show up and maybe the color is a little bit disappointing, and then I just dye everything teal blue,
That's
pretty
really
much.
smart. That's actually really smart. Did you dye the thing behind you, by the way? Because it looks like you
No,
could have. Oh, okay.
no, I could not have done that.
Oh, okay.
Solid color.
Got it. That's smart.
Yeah.
But it's all teal blue?
Well, I don't have that many
Oh,
colors
okay.
right now.
All right, I gotta go.
Bye,
Bye,
Bye.
Corey. Jamie, what about you?
Oh, mine will be quick. Been watching The Gilded Age, the newest season. I love the show.
Is this season 2?
This is 3. I feel like it's 3.
Okay.
I used to call it Downton Abbey in America because I couldn't remember the name, but it reminds me of Downton Abbey very much so, which I also loved, but I love The Gilded Age.
Is it as good as like has it been good from the beginning? Like from
Yes,
season 1?
yes. And the
Okay.
only thing that you should be careful with is Cynthia
Cynthia
Nixon
Nixon.
it, which you just have to pretend like you don't know anything about her in real life, and then you can watch it.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And you went to Alcatraz?
Yes, I did go to it smelled bad. There were no seals. There were just cormorants by
Okay.
the thousands.
See,
Is there
we didn't tour that. Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, did you make up the slogan Alcatraz, it's more than a prison as a joke?
No, literally on the boat over there, I'm drinking this terrible bleh, fake pretend cappuccino, and I hear this. It's a national park, and the national park speaker was like, "Welcome to it was like the Jurassic Park thing, like, welcome to Jurassic Park." It was like, "Welcome to Alcatraz. It's more than a prison." And I was like, "What the
You were like, does it just mean it's also a national park? Because
I don't know what it meant. I guess it's also a stinky bird sanctuary. I don't know."
Well, it was also where they filmed the Rock, I think, right? That Michael Bay film
Yes,
with
I
Sean
think so.
Connery and Nicolas Cage.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, yes. Anyway,
All
I will
right.
be leaving California tomorrow and back to farm country time zone, which should be the time zone for everyone in America.
You can petition. You have to write Trump about that. I mean, he could make something happen for you.
yeah, put everybody on real America time.
Yes, I love it. All right, it was nice to talk to you all.
You
You
too.
too.
Everyone have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.